Welcome, everyone. We'll be starting shortly.
Good morning. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes for the people that enrolled in the webinar to join us. We only have a handful that have joined so far, so if you don't mind, I'll be a couple of minutes. Thank you. Okay, thanks again for joining us. Good morning. Welcome to the 2025 NOFO Illinois Works Performance-Based Payment Model webinar. If your line is not muted, if you don't mind muting your line, please. Carlita, if you don't mind muting your line, that would be great. This is the last NOFO Technical Assistance session for 2025. We have so far delivered 4 that you can find on the NOFO landing page for our program. And this will be the 5th one and the last one for this 2025 season. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Over the next 2 hours and 20 minutes, you will have the opportunity to learn about the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program performance-based reimbursement model. The target audience for this program is individuals accountable for identifying and or completing applications for funding opportunities. In this instance, obviously, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO, job titles that may benefit from this session include program administrators, grant writers, fund developers, program managers, and program coordinators. My name is Norman Ruano, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Illinois Works. I oversee all the Illinois Works programs throughout the state of Illinois. Today with me is Shar Falls, who is one of our programmatic grant managers, will be delivering some of the content today. Shar, if you don't mind saying hi to our audience.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining.
Thank you, Shar. Also with me today is Monica Pruitt, who's also a programmatic grant manager with Illinois Works, and she will also be delivering some of the content today. Monica, if you don't mind saying hi to our audience today.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. We're glad to have you here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Also, Dr. Carlita Olston, who's an instructional designer and program coach. She's providing support today for this webinar. Carlita, if you could please say hi to our audience.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Carlita. And also Ms. Olivia Meisenbach, who's a technical writer with our team. Olivia, if you don't mind saying hi to our audience today.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, Olivia. As we have mentioned in previous webinars during our NOFO technical assistance sessions, there's a whole team of individuals at the Office of Illinois Works, not only for the pre-apprenticeship program, but we have a team also that works in the pre-apprenticeship initiative, one that works in the big credit program, and one that works in career services. If you're interested in learning more about those programs and those teams, you can certainly go to the webinar, to the NOFO technical assistance session we delivered a few weeks ago called Introduction to Illinois Works and its Programs. That webinar is the recording for that webinar is now available on the NOFO webpage that we are now providing for you a link for in the chat, so you could go there and learn a little more about who those individuals are, what those programs do. And it's at the bottom of the page. You will find the recording for the webinars. Olivia, if you don't mind, or Carlita, if you don't mind, just posting the link in the chat, please. At the bottom of the site, you will find all the information sessions that we have delivered this season, and one of those is the Introduction to Illinois Works and its Programs. The recording is there. You can download it and go through it if you are interested. Illinois Works was created as a result of Governor Pritzker's historic $45 billion capital plan called Rebuild Illinois, and his commitment to expanding quality in the Illinois construction workforce. Illinois Works grantees are part of an exciting new initiative that creates opportunities for Illinois residents, businesses, communities, and families. In order to advance the goal, the Office of Illinois Works launched the pre-apprenticeship program in 2022 and debuted the program with a performance-based payment model. This model followed national best practices and is designed to fund tangible community-focused impact. During this course, you'll be provided with the framework for the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program performance-based model and structure, so that once we start going through all the details of that model, you can certainly ask as many questions as you want. In terms of objectives for this NOFO technical assistance session, at the end of this training, you'll be able to explain the impact of Governor Pritzker's historic $45 billion capital plan, describe the features of the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program, list the key features of performance-based payment of our performance-based payment model, describe each of the funding benchmarks, determine monthly reimbursement maximums, describe the role of the Illinois Works reporting system, complying with Grant Accountability and Transparency Act requirements, that's called GATA, accurately and timely submit required standardized GATA reports tied to the grant agreement. In this case, we're talking about the periodic financial report, the PFR, and the periodic performance report, the PPR. One of the key things that we always do is that we record these sessions. Please keep in mind that this session is being recorded and will be made available for your review at the 2025 landing page for the grant. Give it about a couple of days, and this recording will be made available there for your review. Once again, the link for the page is now being provided for you in the chat. And again, it's at the bottom of the page where the information sessions are. What we typically do is that if the webinar was going to happen in the future, there will be a link for you to enroll in the webinar. But if it's a webinar that we already delivered, that same link is now a link to the recording. So it now says recording, and you can download the recording and listen to the webinar. Are there any questions before we proceed to the next section? If you have any questions, you can unmute your line or post your question in the chat. Do we have any questions in the chat?
There.
There are
There.
currently no questions in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So moving on to section 2. Just very quickly, some guidelines here in terms of how we're going to deliver this, the technology we're using, how to engage with the technology. After completing this section, you'll be able to follow session participants, identify fellow session participants, use the WebEx features and functions to fully participate in the training, and identify what you hope to learn as part of this webinar. In order for you to be fully engaged, let us review some basic WebEx system functions. I know the state of Illinois uses a lot of WebEx, but a lot of people out there in the community do not. So you will notice at the bottom of your page several different functions, such as mute and unmute, stop or start video. That's your own camera. Raise hand if you want to raise your hand, or there's a section for emojis if you want to react to some of the content that we're providing. And then there's also the chat feature, which is the bubble. Make sure you know how to use the chat, as you will be asked to provide questions or comments in the chat often during the program. There's also a group function that we will not be utilizing for this webinar today. To help facilitate the best experience, please keep your line muted to help manage potential interruptions during the training. The lines can be unmuted during question and answer sessions or group discussions. If you have a comment or a question, please share it in the chat or unmute yourself during the question and answer sessions at the end of each of the training sections. There will be particular moments in time where we will give you an opportunity to unmute your line, but if you have any questions or comments as we go along, do not hesitate to enter them in the chat. We will try to respond to as many of your comments and questions as possible within our allotted time frame. Okay, great. Now, in order for us to have interactivity during the webinar, there'll be some particular sections in the webinar where there'll be quite a bit of interactivity. And also at the end of the webinar, to do our evaluation, please log on to Mentimeter, which is the interactive tool that we use for these webinars. You could either log on to Mentimeter by scanning the QR code or going to www.menti.com, or clicking on the right-hand side of your screen. You will notice a multimedia screen where you can click on it, and it will take you to Mentimeter, where you can also log on. The code for our Mentimeter session today is 62627391. 62627391. So I'm going to give you a minute here for you to log on to Mentimeter so that we can have some interactivity. If you don't mind doing that at this moment, that would be great. Okay, once you are able to join Mentimeter, we will ask if you could please provide your name, your organization's or agency name, the role you play in that organization, and also the geographic location in the state of Illinois. We already have 10 people logged on to Mentimeter. So Jerry from Tech Services in Naperville, Jackie Lawson from Skills USA, welcome in Peking, Illinois. Keith Brown, Superintendent, Limestone Community High School, Central Illinois, in Peoria. We have 10 people logged on. If you could please provide your name, the organization or agency you represent, the role you play in that organization, and also the your geographic location. This would allow us an opportunity to interact and know that that you're ready to go once we get going with other activities. Ronald Ewing, the Community Works Director of Operations, Waukegan, Illinois. Welcome back, Ronald. Anybody else? We have 4 individuals that have responded so far out of 10. Okay, we're going to be proceeding using Mentimeter. We're going to continue our interactivity. Is there anything beyond what was articulated in the course objectives you would like us to cover today? We already covered the course objectives early on at the beginning of the previous section. Is there anything else that you would like us to cover today besides the stated objectives that we already have there? So once again, we have 10 people logged on to Mentimeter. Any of you is interested in any other objectives besides the ones that we have already outlined? We also have Michael, Director of this Plains Valley region. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Stated objectives are good. Anybody else? Otherwise, we're going to proceed to the next section. Looking forward to a refresher and best practice processes for this topic. Great. We will definitely be covering extensively how our model works, how it operates, and you'll have again an opportunity to ask questions at that point. If after we finish the webinar you have questions or comments, please email us at ceo.ilworks@illinois.gov. The email is now being shown for you on the screen. You can certainly send us any comments or questions. Be more than happy to answer those. Great. Any questions about this section before we proceed? If you have any questions or comments, you can unmute your line or post your question in the chat. Olivia, do we have any questions?
There are currently no questions.
Okay, great. Okay, I will now hand it over to Shar Falls, who's one of our programmatic grant managers. She will be delivering the next section. Shar, please take it over. It's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ruano. Welcome to Section 3, the Introduction to Illinois Works. By the end of this section, you will be able to explain the impact of Governor Pritzker's historic $45 billion capital plan, describe the relationship between DCEO and Illinois Works, list the 3 Illinois Works key programs, describe the features of the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program, and identify the goals of Illinois Works. Illinois Works is a top priority of the Illinois 2024 Economic Growth Plan. Illinois Works was created as a result of Governor Pritzker's historic $45 billion capital plan, Rebuild Illinois, and his commitment to expanding equity in the Illinois construction workforce. With this new capital funding set to pave the way for tens of thousands of jobs over the next decade, the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act was intentionally designed to increase equity and opportunity in capital construction jobs. The intention is to reinvigorate the workforce in Illinois for the future. Now, if you have attended the Introduction to Illinois Works in its programs webinar, some of this information will be familiar. If you have not, please view the recording on the Illinois Works NOFO site. The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, DCEO's mission is to support and maintain a climate that enables a strong economy for their customers, taxpayers, businesses, workers, and communities. By keeping, attracting, and growing businesses, maintaining a skilled workforce, and enhancing communities so that the climate here is one in which businesses, small and large, and their workers can succeed to the greatest extent possible. DCEO delivers impactful and efficient programs and services. Given Governor Pritzker's commitment to expanding equity in Illinois construction workforce, the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act was intentionally designed to increase equity and opportunity in capital construction projects. The passing of this act led to the creation of the Office of Illinois Works, a bureau within DCEO tasked with the responsibility of implementing the Illinois Works key programs. The implementation of the Illinois Works was driven by data that showed for too long the construction industry and the trades have not been equitably accessible for diverse communities, with fewer than 10% of the best paid apprenticeships extended to women and minorities. Illinois Works is an innovative workforce development method. This unique and innovative model was designed to create the job demand, talent pipeline, and incentives to hire and retain. Typically, workforce development models have one or perhaps even two of these key components. Excuse me. Any one or combination of any two will substantially impact the workforce. The Illinois Works program encompasses all three of these key components to create a comprehensive response to workforce development at all levels. Illinois Works is a one-of-a-kind initiative, and it is in a unique position to make a huge difference. Geographic priority areas include Central Region, which is Region 1, Sangamon County, North Central Region, which is Region 3, Peoria County and McLean County, Northeast Region, Region 4, DeKalb County, DuPage County, Kane County, Kankakee County, Kendall County, McHenry County, Suburban Cook County, and Will County, Northwest Region 6, LaSalle County, Rock Island County, Whiteside County, Southeast Region, which is Region 7, which is Marion County and Lawrence County, and the Southern Region, Region 8, which is Jackson County. These are the areas to focus. However, applicants outside of these regions will receive consideration. To see the geographic boundaries of each of these economic development regions, a link is being provided for you in the chat. The DCEO Office of Illinois Works, with the support and partnerships of communities, the building trades, and the construction industry, delivers three key programs: Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative, Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, and Illinois Works Bid Credit Program. For additional detailed information about each of these programs, view the Introduction to Illinois Works and its program webinar recording on the Illinois Works NOFO site. The focus of this NOFO is the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. The Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative creates the demand for jobs, and the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program creates the pipeline of diverse candidates to help respond to that demand. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program creates a qualified talent pipeline to fill job opportunities with diverse candidates. It launched in 2022 with 23 programs. The Illinois Works Provider Network expanded to 37 for the 2025 grant year. The average award was $501,439.02 with a $20.5 million investment. Our present network of providers has capacity to serve approximately 1,800 Illinois residents throughout the majority of economic development regions of the state of Illinois. Our goal with this year's NOFO is to fund approximately 40 to 45 providers, including existing grantees, that will receive funding renewal letter offers covering the whole state of Illinois, with the capacity to serve 2,000 Illinois residents, which is the maximum capacity we plan to operate within the future. This program delivers pre-apprenticeship skills training through a network of community-based organizations, including community colleges, faith-based organizations, and business associations, among others. Participants of the program attend tuition-free and receive a stipend and other supportive services to help address systemic barriers which prevent them from entering the construction industry. Experienced and new providers are encouraged to apply along with existing Illinois Works grantees who propose to serve a different geographic area or economic development region than they were originally contracted to serve. Also, existing grantees who have been in the network for 3 years and are interested in renewing their funding must also apply through this NOFO. Priority will be given to applicants serving priority economic development regions and underrepresented populations as outlined in the NOFO. As a reminder, the due date for the application materials is Monday, September 1st, 2025 by 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. If Illinois Works achieves its goals, we will have successfully partnered with community stakeholders to do the following: provide a career pathway for residents in disadvantaged communities, provide eligible apprentices with skills for lifelong job security, promote construction as a viable job industry for women and minority communities, provide the construction industry with a consistent skilled workforce for generations to come, create new partnerships between state agencies and community organizations as well. Now, using Mentimeter, answer the question on the screen. If Illinois Works is successful in achieving its goals, what impact will it have on Illinois communities? Okay, we're coming in fast, really good. So stability, definitely stability. Bridge employment gaps, economic growth. Are there any more? Equity inclusion, which is a part of the mission. Jobs, definitely jobs. Economic growth, keep them coming. Does anybody else have something that they just want to share? Because this is all really good, because these are the things that we want to see in those communities. Living wage, changing families' lives. This is a life-changing opportunity. Increased work pool, yes. Careers. So these are all wonderful answers, and these are the things that we want to see in the communities, and we want this to be a reality for the participants that participate in this program. If there are any more after we go to the next section, what you can do is you can just put those things in the chat. That's fine. Thank you for your responses. As you have shared, the success of this program is critical for communities and businesses in these communities. Also, by those employed by those businesses. Together, we are in a unique position to make a significant difference. So we're back to Mentimeter. You're going to get some questions. So you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen a multimedia viewer alert. Click the blue button. Once you press continue, the Mentimeter app will show in the multimedia viewer panel. The code is in the chat as well. You'll be asked to submit your name. You don't have to. You can submit the name of the character the system recommends for you. And remember your character so that you can keep track of your score. And you select Join Quiz. The questions will be framed as true or false. Once a question appears on the screen, you have a few seconds to consider the question. Then the options will appear. You will have 10 seconds to enter your response. For select questions, you will earn points for answering questions early and answering questions accurately. If you're among the top scorers, you or your character will appear in the leaderboard. So are we ready? We have 8. How many are, I think we have more participants than this, but we're going to get going. So question number 1. Illinois Works was created as a result of Governor Pritzker's commitment to expanding equity in the Illinois construction workforce. So you have to answer quickly. Okay, great job. Great job. Question number 2. Okay, we have a tight race. Question number 2. Illinois Works is a top priority of the governor's 5-year economic plan, resulting from his historic $25 billion capital plan. True or false? That is false. It's a $45 billion capital plan. Okay. All right, we still have a tight race. Question number 3. Illinois Work is an innovative model to reinvigorate our workforce for the future. That is true. Very good. All right. Question number 4. The Illinois Works Jobs Program Act was intentionally designed to take advantage of the thousands of capital construction jobs in Illinois. All right. You all are cooking. Very good. All right. Can you put the last question up for me? There we go. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program was launched in 2022 with 23 programs. The Illinois Works Provider Network expanded to 37 for the 2024 year. True or false? All right, so you all did a great job. Thank you for participating, and thank you for your input and your interactivity. We are going to keep moving along. Are there any questions before we go to the next section? If you have questions, feel free to unmute your line, post your questions in the chat. Are there any questions?
There are currently no questions in the chat.
Thank you, Olivia. Well, thank you for your time and thank you for your interest in Illinois Works. I'm going to pass this on to my colleague, Monica.
Thank you, Shara. I appreciate it. So we're going to jump into section 4 and discuss the Illinois Works performance-based reimbursement model. In this section, I will list the key features of a performance-based payment model, describe each of the funding benchmarks, explain the role of the Illinois Works grant manager, determine the monthly reimbursement maximum. I'll describe to you how that happens. I'll describe the utility of the monthly compliance report and payment worksheet. And last, I'll explain how to earn carryover credits. Before we get started, are there any questions about our objectives? Okay.
There are currently no questions.
Perfect. In that case, we'll go ahead and jump into performance-based payment model. The Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program utilizes a performance-based payment model. The performance-based payment model utilized by Illinois Works is rooted in the belief that grant funding should be based on an organization's tangible impact in their community. Illinois Works is motivated to produce real change in Illinois, which has driven the implementation of a performance-based payment model to complement the existing state of Illinois reimbursement model. In this section, we will take a much deeper dive into the combination of performance and allowable expenses that dictate reimbursement. First, we're going to go back to Mentimeter. We have a Mentimeter question. Have you had previous experience managing a performance-based reimbursement model? I think we have 8, 9, 10 maybe participants. So let me know how many of you have had experience with this type of reimbursement model. I see 1 yes, I see 2 no's. Are there additional answers? We got a few more people who are participating today, so please let us know. It'll be important to know who has previous experience with these models. Okay. In the meantime, we do have at least 1 yes and 2 no's. So thank you for your responses. Some are limited. Perfect. Okay, so we do have a variety of experience in the room. So thank you. I appreciate that. We have a second Mentimeter question. When we talk about performance-based payment models, this transition will be new for some of you who have previously received funding from DCO through its other programs and services. For those who shared that you are familiar with this type of payment model, its reputation often precedes itself. So the Mentimeter question is, what are some of the objectives you might use to describe a performance-based payment model? Keep it nice. What are some of the adjectives you might use to describe a performance-based payment model? Supportive, absolutely. Motivational, rewarding, number of clients. It definitely does depend on the number of clients that are served. Are there other adjectives you might use to describe a performance-based payment model? Rewarding, supportive, difficult, it certainly can be at times. Accountability, that's a huge one. Outcome-based, absolutely, absolutely. All of those answers are right. All of those answers are correct. So thank you all so much for your participation. Given what many of you have heard or even experienced with the type of models of a performance-based payment model, it is understandable that you may have some questions or desire to have additional information prior to responding to the NOFO. You will find that there are some components of the Illinois Works model that will be familiar and some that will be different. The Illinois Works performance-based model has been structured to leverage the accountability component of a performance-based model while creating a structure that provides additional funding opportunities. The most important point to note is that the DCEO, Office of Illinois Works, is highly invested in your success. So the performance-based payment model seeks to link funding to impact. The combination of performance-based and reimbursement models means that metrics dictate the amount of funding available for reimbursement, while grantees must still submit allowable expenses to access that funding. And that is, of course, the heart of the Illinois Works model. So some key components. The Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program payment model was introduced by DCEO through the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program, aligning with other municipalities and state agencies that already utilize this model. Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program model overlays a performance-based payment model atop the state of Illinois' reimbursement model. Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program and DCEO are driven to produce real change in the Illinois construction industry. Performance and allowable costs are linked to reimbursement. If grantees do not meet their metrics, they may earn less funding than their initial grant award. On the other hand, if grantees exceed their metrics, they can earn funding beyond their initial grant award. Due to live, real-time reporting through the Illinois Works Reporting System, or IWRS, DCEO makes reimbursement available on a monthly basis. And for those who may not be familiar with IWRS, we will share more information about IWRS later in this session. Grantees have the right to appeal, to submit an appeal to Illinois Works if a grantee believes that they missed their outcome metrics due to variables outside of their control. And then last, performance-based payment models fund programs that have a tangible impact in their communities. So let's talk about those funding benchmarks. There are 4 funding benchmarks of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. They are enrollment, completion, transitions, and closeout reports. Each of these metrics is connected to a percentage share of the overall grant award. Because this is a performance-based model, not an outcome-based model, organizations can receive reimbursement funds related to benchmarks while working toward their goal. Additional funding beyond the initial grant award is available if grantees exceed outcome metrics based on their per participant allotment. Additional funding will still need to be based on expenses in the Illinois Works approved budget, however. So the first metric is enrollment. An eligible individual who completes a pre-screen application and standardized interview process that is offered a spot in the program, accepts the offer, and begins to attend training is considered a successful enrollment. Next, there's completion. An individual who begins instruction and successfully completes all required training modulars and assessments in order to obtain industry-recognized credentials and credentials are considered a completion. Transitions become a little bit more complicated. The transition funding benchmark is composed of several different metrics that depend on the path of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program participant, what path they have chosen after completing the program. As mentioned earlier, one of the goals of Illinois Works is to promote construction as a viable job industry and career pathway for residents of Illinois while providing the construction industry with a consistent, skilled workforce. Therefore, the primary goal of the transition benchmark is enrollment of Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program graduates into U.S. DOL registered apprenticeship programs. This outcome is referred to as a primary transition final, and it reflects 100% credit on a per participant basis. Again, the definition of a primary transition final, and that part is important, final, is a graduate of an Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Training Program who has enrolled in or has been sponsored into a construction trade DOL registered apprenticeship program. The transition outcome that commonly is achieved prior to the primary transition final is the primary transition preliminary. The definition of this status is a graduate of an Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Training Program who has applied to a construction trade DOL registered apprenticeship program. And notice I said that they had applied to, they had not been enrolled in or sponsored into, which again is your final transition in the preliminary stage, that simply means that that person has applied to that DOL registered apprenticeship program. And this outcome earns a 50% credit of a per participant basis. So remember, there is a difference between the final and the preliminary transitions. As mentioned, and as the name implies, this outcome generally is the first step in achieving the ultimate goal of primary transition final. Since the primary preliminary transition achieves 50%, if the participant achieves primary final, which again is enrollment into a RAP, after having received the primary preliminary outcome, the awarded outcome will be changed to preliminary final, and the remaining 50% credit will be provided so that the full 100% credit will be achieved. So a little bit more simply, if a person were to apply to a DOL registered apprenticeship program successfully, they would receive a 50% credit and receive the balance of the 50% if they are actually hired on or sponsored into a DOL registered apprenticeship program. And at that point in time, that grantee would be eligible for 100% credit for that participant. This process also applies to the remaining transition definitions that we will discuss. Also, although it must be noted that regardless of the number of outcomes achieved or the order in which they are achieved, nothing greater than a 100% credit can be awarded. So no transition will ever be worth more than a 100% credit. In instances where participants seek a career in construction or construction-related fields, but through channels other than apprenticeship in a US DOL RAP, the transition outcome of alternative construction transition is available. This outcome earns 70% of the total per participant credit for a transition. Examples of these industries or positions include facility maintenance, construction jobs not connected to US DOL RAP, utilities, alternative energy such as solar panel installation, construction project management or professional services, broadband technicians, and EV station installer technicians, among others. Unlike primary transitions, only final verification is accepted for this transition category. Applying for these positions or interviewing for these positions does not constitute a final verification. So again, with alternative construction, the person would actually need to be hired in order to receive that final verification. The final transition outcome available is called a secondary transition. These outcomes are for graduates that secure employment in a sector other than construction or pursue higher education or some other form of advanced training. The secondary transition outcome earns 50% of the total per participant credit available for transitions. Are there questions regarding the various transition outcomes?
There are currently no questions in the chat.
That's fantastic, Olivia. Thank you. And if you think of things later, please feel free to add those to the chat. But in the meantime, we'll move on to closeout. The goal of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program closeout is to verify the completeness and quality of the data entered into IWRS. Illinois Works will utilize a Rosen closeout process, which culminates at the end of each grant year. Each month, the grant managers verify enrollment metrics. During the closeout process, we will conduct a final review to ensure all enrollment, completion, and transition information is provided for each program participant. This will culminate in January of the following grant year. Once completion for each participant has been verified, grantees will receive closeout funds, which is typically 10% of their overall grant funding, unless a grantee received in advance. And in that case, the closeout amount will be reduced accordingly. So we talked a lot about what's earned and how it's earned. So let's talk about the funding formula now. The funding formula includes enrollments at 25%, completions are 30%, transitions are 35%, plus closeout reports are 10%, which together equal 100% funding of an Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program grant. Each outcome metric must be verified through the data entered into IWRS, or as a reminder, the Illinois Works reporting system. However, unlike enrollments, which are verified by information provided to Illinois Works exclusively by the grantee, completions and transitions require third-party verification. Completion verification requires that a participant has successfully completed all of the training modulars and that their attendance, including attendance rosters, post-assessments, and credentials have been entered into the corresponding training modulars in IWRS. The Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program also requires an attendance roster to be kept on file and to be uploaded to IWRS for each training modular. Each participant must also have certificates or credentials uploaded for NCCER, Trades Future MC3, or ICCB, whichever one of the construction programs that is used for that particular program. OSHA 10 construction, first aid CPR, and any other certificate if applicable based on the grantee's approved curriculum. This system is designed to offer credit to programs to cover any time delays between the achievement of the metric and securing full verification. It also incentivizes programs to quickly verify completions and maintain connections with participants through full transitions, which could either be enrollment in a registered apprenticeship program, an alternative construction, or in serving a secondary transition. Just as a note, because we talked a lot about the primary transitions being preliminary and final. A participant does not always have to go through both verification levels. For example, if a participant has required documentation for a full transition, they will automatically be considered to have a full verification for their primary transition. So again, maybe a participant did not provide you with documentation to prove that they actually applied for a registered apprenticeship program, but they may come back with a final acceptance letter showing that they have been hired on, and in that case, then they would automatically receive the final verification for the primary transition final. Secondary transitions can only be accepted once they have reached a final verification stage. So there is no preliminary verification for alternative construction or secondary constructions. It's just really important to remember that those are final verifications only, meaning that that person needs to have been fully accepted into a program or hired into full-time employment. All right, so let's talk about benchmarks, or better yet, let's look at this example here. So here we have a benchmark example where a grantee received a total grant award of $500,000. We've already talked about the funding benchmarks being enrollment, completion, transitions, and closeout. So those again are the 4 benchmarks that we would look at. Again, with the funding formula, we talked about the percentage of the award for each benchmark. Enrollments are worth 25% of the total grant award. Completions, 30%. Primary transitions, 35%. And closeout, 10%, which again totals 100% of your total grant award. But now let's talk about the funding portions. So again, using the $500,000 example, approximately $125,000 of the $500,000 award is eligible or would be disseminated for successful enrollments into the program. And the funding portions break down again based on the percentage of the award. $150,000 is available for completions. $175,000 is available for transitions. And again, closeout is typically 10% of the total grant award. So of course that dollar amount is lower. But if you look at the funding portions for each of the benchmarks, you will again see how we reach the total grant award amount. The funding portions are broken down either further into per participant allotments. This is the per participant allotment is the dollar amount allocated for each participant's outcome metric, including enrollment, completion, and transition. The per participant allotment is the result of the funding benchmark percentage divided by the funding benchmark participant goal. And using the slide that we were just working with, if $125,000 was available for enrollment and that grantee were to enroll 50 participants, then the per participant allotment would be approximately $2,500 per participant. So I just wanted to provide that additional detail before we go ahead and talk about the proposed work plan or the total outcome metrics table. So as part of the NOFO application, each applicant will complete Attachment 1, Proposed Work Plan. This document is where each applicant will outline the number of individuals they plan to serve and provide instructional dates. While it's a good idea to know at what capacity you plan to be able to serve participants when you are applying for this grant, some of these metrics may be negotiated during the contracting or the negotiation phase. So one of the things we talk about is the number of participants who are recruited. Recruited means an individual who is interested in the program and has provided their contact information to be contacted for possible enrollment. You will need to estimate the number of enrolled participants. These are individuals who complete a pre-screen, the application, and complete a standardized interview process and is offered a seat in the program. They accept the offer and then they begin attending training. So we discussed earlier, that's what an enrollment is. Completed participants are individuals who begin instruction and successfully complete all required training modules and assessments to obtain industry-recognized certifications and credentials. Transitions. A graduate of an Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship training program who has applied to and has been accepted into a DOL registered apprenticeship program, or who has applied and has been placed on a waiting list for a DOL registered apprenticeship program, is a primary outcome transition participant. Alternative construction transition participant is a graduate of an Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program who does not enter a DOL RAP, but instead secures permanent full-time employment in the utilities or other construction-related work. And then there's last, the secondary outcome transition participant. That's a graduate of an Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship training program who chooses not to apply for a DOL registered apprenticeship program and instead is actively participating in an alternate outcome. For example, that could be this participant registered in a college program or other education or training program, or they may have accepted a position with an employer outside of the construction industry. So those are the people that we will be talking about in your proposed work plan. What are the numbers of these people you plan to serve? So your key outcome metrics. These metrics are what will be used to determine the overall grant award and the per participant allotment we discussed earlier. Grantees will determine the number of participants they plan to enroll, but Illinois Works requires at least 85% of individuals enrolled successfully complete the pre-apprenticeship training program. Also, at least 70% of individuals enrolled will be hired and enrolled in a DOL registered apprenticeship program. Please note the completion and transition metrics are all related to enrollment. As a result, applicants should set their enrollment numbers to those that are realistic for their organization. Also, as a reminder, these metrics are tracked through the Illinois Works reporting system, and they or the grantees will be able to see how they are progressing through dashboards that are included in IWRS. So, each successful grantee will be assigned an Illinois Works Programmatic Grant Manager. The Illinois Works Grant Manager is primarily accountable for compliance monitoring. The grant manager's responsibilities include, but are not limited to, supporting the implementation of grant programs, ensuring budgets are within the scope of funding, enforcing regulatory compliance, ensuring grantees progress towards meeting required outcomes. One of our responsibilities is enforcing progressive correction action and overall programmatic monitoring. Illinois Works grant managers play an important role in determining your reimbursement. We will reference the Illinois Works Programmatic Grant Manager throughout this section as we talk about our different responsibilities. Monthly reimbursements. On a monthly basis, programmatic grant managers conduct a compliance review of data that has been entered into or uploaded to IWRS. During this process, we will review all participant metrics. Those are enrollment, completions, and transitions. Based on a grantee's progress towards their goals, the programmatic grant manager will provide the grantee with the compliance rating and the amount that they have earned, or we sometimes say the amount that has been unlocked based on their progress towards their goals. Additional information about the monthly compliance review will be provided just a little bit later in a few slides. And it looks like here we have a reimbursement example. So here grantee A has just completed their first cohort. During their monthly review, enrollments and completions for cohort 1 are taken into consideration as part of their reimbursement. And so here we will look at enrollments as our example. That will be the funding benchmark we look at. So the number of participants that the grantee successfully enrolled was 15. The per participant allotment for each one of those enrollments is $2,500. And so the reimbursement amount that was earned or unlocked by that grantee for that particular month was $37,500 in enrollments. And so it works the exact same way for completions. There were 14 of the 15 people who were enrolled who completed the program. And you will also notice that the per participant allotment is higher for completion than enrollment because, again, completion is critical. So the reimbursement amount that was earned for completions for those 14 participants was $48,837.18. So for that month in particular, that grantee earned a total of $86,337.18 for the information that they entered into IWRS and for those participants that they successfully served. So that's how monthly reimbursement works. Next, we'll talk about how we communicate your compliance ratings and findings. So once an overall progress rating is determined each month, each grantee will be emailed 2 monthly reports. You'll receive the monthly compliance progress report and also the monthly compliance payment worksheet. Illinois Works grant managers will conduct monthly compliance reviews to ensure grantees are adhering to program expectations based on the grant agreement and the approved work plan. First, through the monthly compliance report, which more details about that. This report provides the grantee with their overall progress rating, the increase to their reimbursement cap based on that month's review, notes regarding their progress rating and any relevant data trends identified in the review, and then information detailed in the progress reports is only a snapshot of what was entered into IWRS since the previous month's compliance review. So that progress report is basically what has happened new since the last monthly review. This report is not an aggregate report. Only new enrollments, completions, and transitions are documented since the last monthly compliance progress report. On the other hand, the monthly compliance payment worksheet is an aggregate worksheet that outlines the total number of enrollments, completions, primary transitions, alternative construction transitions, and secondary transitions a grantee has received credit for. This report also provides grantees with a detailed outline of their custom performance-based payment funding formula and reimbursement maximum and grant award information. So for more information about the monthly compliance payment worksheet, you can refer to Section 11, Finances, Records, and Reporting of the 2025 Grantee Manual. And I believe that link is being placed in the chat now. Okay. And here we have an example of the monthly compliance payment worksheet. This report provides aggregate data, including the total number of enrollments, completions, and transitions that have been approved for reimbursement. And you can see here that it is done on a monthly basis. You can see the number of enrollments, completions, transitions that are verified, each one of those individual months. You can see the dollar amount that was earned for each one of those benchmarks, each individual months. And then if you look at that last row at the bottom, you have your total. So there is your combination of the full year. You can see that for that full year, 21 persons were enrolled into this particular program, where it looks like maybe, can't tell for sure if that's a 9 or a 0, but that last row will give you the total number of successful verifications throughout the year. So that's basically what the monthly compliance payment worksheet looks like. All right, the appropriate use of funds. As with any grant funding, funds must be used for the purpose of implementing the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program. Specific allowable grant costs were set forth in the NOFO and also the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program rules. Allowable costs, including expenditures for the program, must comply with 2 CFR 200, and that is one of the financial registers, I believe. If there are questions regarding specific expenditures, your assigned Illinois Works Programmatic Grant Manager will be available to assist you. Okay, before we jump to a practice round, last we're going to talk about carryover credits. Due to the timing of programming and cycles of registered apprenticeship program enrollment periods, it is possible that a participant will attend training in one grant year, but not complete or fully transition into a DOL registered apprenticeship program until the following grant year, or maybe even beyond. As a result, a carryover credit will be provided to grantees for their pre-apprentice graduates related outcome metric if the completion and transition takes place within the same grant agreement as the original enrollment. Carryover credits are outcome metric and reimbursement credits earned by grantees in their second and third grant year based on the completion or transition of a participant initially enrolled in a previous grant year. Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship grant agreements last a maximum of 3 years. The initial grant year followed by up to 2 renewals. These renewals are extensions of the original grant agreement, and therefore carryovers are possible during the 2 years that follow the initial grant award. All right, so it looks like we are going back to Mentimeter for another
Excuse me,
practice.
Monica.
Yes.
Before we jump into the practice round, there is one question in the chat that I just wanted to touch on really quickly.
Okay.
From Jackie. They're asking how long after the monthly compliance report before the funds are unlocked/available?
Oh boy. For that, I wish our financial grant manager was on the line because Jackie, I apologize. I don't know exactly what the timeline is for that. Once we've completed our monthly review, of course, we do provide our financial grant manager with the dollars that were unlocked. I believe it may take a couple of weeks, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't exactly know the financial timeline, so I apologize for that.
And
Any
that is
other
the only
questions?
question. That's the only one as of now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're going to jump into our practice round, right? So hopefully everyone has logged back into Mentimeter. The same rules apply as before. The questions and all please still work the same. So let's go ahead and maybe get started with the first question. All right. So the performance-based payment model seeks to link funding to impact. Is that true or false? Are we looking to link our model of payment to funding impact? All right, we have 4 people who say it is true. I think we may have 9 on the line, so everybody else please jump in. But yes, the 4 of you who said true are 100% correct. And that puts that girl 1 at the top of the leaderboard. So very good. All right, let's get everybody involved. I think we should have probably 9 or 10 people. So let's move on to question number 2. There are 4 funding benchmarks: enrollment, completion, transition, and closeout reports. Is that true or is that false? And let's get as many participants as possible. How many funding benchmarks are there? Are there 4? All right, good. We gained 2 more people this round. And yes, the answer is true. Enrollment, completion, transition, and closeout. And now it looks like, yep, that girl 1 is still the fastest and leading the board. Congratulations. Let's move on to question 3. Illinois Works is an innovative model to reinvigorate our workforce for the future. Is that true? Is that false? Let's get 9 or 10 responses here. We got about 2 seconds. All right, very good. That is absolutely true. Thank you to those who participated. We got a couple of more questions and things are really looking really close. Nope, they're not close. That 1 girl, she's it. Okay, so the rest of you still have a chance. So let's move on to question number 4. Primary transitions are divided into 3 categories: preliminary, intermediate, and final. Primary transitions are divided into 3 categories: preliminary, intermediate, and final. Okay, we got 3 and 3, and that answer is false. Our primary transitions are divided into 2 categories. There's preliminary, if a participant applies for or is put on a waiting list for a DOL registered apprenticeship program, and a final transition if they are actually accepted into that program or sponsored into that program. So, all right, how does that affect our score? All right, things got a little closer, it appears. Okay, but that girl 6, that 1 girl is still leading the board. And then the last question, I believe, Carryover credits are earned when the grantee exceeds their enrollment goals. Carryover credits are earned when a grantee exceeds their enrollment goals. Is that true or is that false? Very good. That is false. Carryover credits are outcome metric and reimbursement credit earned when a grantee in their second or third year, based on completions and transitions of a participant initially enrolled in a previous grant year. So thank you all so much for participating. Everybody give a hand clap for that one girl who was the fastest and who is leading our leaderboard. In the meantime, we are due for a break, but if you have any questions, the CEO Illinois Works email address is on your screen. You may add your questions to the chat. But otherwise, thank you so much for your time. We are going to take a 10-minute break, and then Dr. Ruano will come back and finish the day for us. So it looks like it's about 10:46. So why don't we come back around 10:55, 56? Thank you all so much.
Okay, good morning once again. Hope you had an opportunity to get back from break. After that very energetic and dynamic presentation from Monica, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that good with that level of energy, but I'm going to try here. We're going to move on now to the last section of this webinar, which is data management and reporting. After
Dr.
the end
Rowana,
of this, yes.
I apologize for interrupting. I did have one question that popped up right as we were settling into our break. And so just to read that aloud really quickly, Harmony
Yeah, if
International
you don't mind,
Development.
sure, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. They had a quick question that asked, how do we know who our assigned grant manager is from Illinois Works?
Yeah, that's a good question. So every year, during the onboarding process, which takes place between January and February of the program year goes from January 1st all the way to December 31st. Illinois Works officially announces who the programmatic grant manager will be for a particular grantee. They will also learn about who their financial grant manager will be. I will talk about the financial grant manager in a minute, but those announcements are made early in the year during the onboarding process that takes place in January and February. Any other questions, Olivia, before we move on?
That was the only question in the chat as of now.
Okay, great. So moving on to the last section, as I mentioned, so is data management and reporting. At the end of this section, you'll be able to describe the origins and role of the Illinois Works reporting system, comply with Grant Accountability and Transparency Act or GATA requirements, accurately and timely submit required standardized GATA reports tied to the grant agreement, which is the Periodic Financial Report or PFR, and the Periodic Performance Report or PPR. One important thing about Illinois Works is that because we are a performance-based model, is that we do real-time reporting. Unlike any other programs that you might have engaged or been a grantee for, Illinois Works, uh, Illinois Works program data is captured in the Illinois Works reporting system or IWRS. And as I mentioned, this is due to the nature of our program and the fact that real-time reporting needs to be done. The Office of Illinois Works, in partnership with Southern Illinois University Center for Workforce Development, developed the Illinois Works reporting system, also known as IWRS. The system was fully launched in February of 2022. If you move on to the next slide, you'll be able to see a screenshot of our system. This is the way the system works. It's a very complex system that is designed specifically to Illinois Works. Due to the custom design, Illinois Works allows grantees to track pre-apprenticeship program inquiries, participants in grantee partnerships. One of the key things about the fact that we use Illinois Works for real-time reporting is that when you submit your GATA periodic performance report, if you have been an Illinois grantee in the past, you know that these are standardized the periodic performance report is due on a quarterly basis. But because we use IWRS, grantee performance data is now tracked in IWRS. As a result, when you submit your PPR, additional supporting documentations is not required. You just have to mention in the report that the data was submitted through IWRS. If you are unfamiliar with the GATA periodic performance reports, we will be sharing more information in a minute about those. One of the key things about IWRS is that the system allows for programs to track key information about the participants' progress throughout their engagement with the program, including their application, their enrollment announcements, their career and support service assessments, enrollment and training modules, attendance, training completion, transition, and follow-up, many of which are part of the funding benchmarks and formula that Monica discussed in the previous section of this webinar. As of the end of January of this year, this is the tracking that the Illinois Works Reporting Systems had. A little bit over 3,000 inquiries, a little bit over 1,700 enrollments, a little bit over 906 completions, and a little bit over 580 transitions. You got to keep in mind this system has been operational from the very beginning of Illinois Works. So, you know, by the end of this year, we would have tracked the enrollment of close to 5,000 individuals, if not more, through the Illinois Works reporting system. Given the nature of our performance-based model, data entry is very, very important. And it's more labor intensive and time sensitive than programs you might have experienced in the past or worked with in the past. Accurate and timely data entry is the cornerstone for reimbursement in our model. So if you run a great program within our model, but unfortunately do not enter the data in a timely manner in IWRS, we wouldn't have visibility into the activities of your program, which then translates in us not being able to verify your performance, which then impacts your reimbursements on a monthly basis. Let's talk a little bit now about grantee renewal, the grantee renewal process, which is tied to data and performance. As established in GATA and explained in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO, for each Illinois Works grant year, grantees have the opportunity to renew their grant 2 times. Including the initial grant year, 2 additional renewals allow grantees to implement the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program for a maximum of 3 years before having to reapply through the merit-based competitive process. Just to summarize here, so if you apply for a grant this year and you score well on your the evaluation of that grant, and we end up negotiating a grant with you and giving you a grant for the program year that starts January 1st, 2026 and ends, January 1st, 2026 and ends December 31st, 2026, you have an opportunity to renew that grant 2 times. How does the renewal process work? In the fall of each grant year, Illinois Works will alert grantees that they have been invited to renew their grant agreement. Grantees will be invited to renew based on their program performance. The performance threshold to qualify for renewal will be provided to grantees in August of each program year. Typically, in order for you to be offered renewal, your program needs to be in good standing with Illinois Works. In good standing, it's 75% or above in your compliance score. Grantees invited to renew will be asked to submit a grant renewal application. This application may include a grant application form, proposed work plan, proposed curriculum, staffing plan, marketing plan, and program improvement plan, along with an updated budget and state required disclosure forms. Additional forms or information may be requested from Illinois Works if deemed necessary. So just want to emphasize here that if you do receive a grant from Illinois Works, you may have an opportunity to renew that grant 2 more years for a total of 3 funding cycles before you have to apply for funding again through a competitive process or a NOFO. Any questions about that before I proceed to discuss the Illinois Works Financial Grant Manager?
There are currently no questions in the chat.
Okay, great. So in terms of the Illinois Works Financial Grant Manager, we already discussed that there is a programmatic grant manager that works on all programmatic issues with grantees, including their performance with Illinois Works. There's also an Illinois Works Financial Grant Manager that gets assigned to each grantee. The Financial Grant Manager is the liaison between the Office of Illinois Works and the Office of the Comptroller. IOC. Their responsibilities include establishing the grant agreements, processing budget modifications, accepting and approving GATA require reports such as PPRs or PFRs, reviewing and approving grantee expenses. Uh, Sometimes to approve those grantee expenses, they will request backup documentation for those expenses and then reviewing those, making sure that any issues with those are clarified and addressed. Submit approval of disbursements to the Office of the Comptroller based on grantees' reimbursement maximums and approved expenses. As Monica mentioned earlier, submitting expenses and even us certifying expenses it doesn't mean that they're going to get paid unless your performance has unlocked enough dollars for us on a monthly basis for us to be able to pay those. If the expenses are not paid in a given month, because you have not unlocked enough dollars, those expenses are carried over to the next month until you are able to unlock more dollars for us to be able to pay those. It is the responsibility of the financial grant manager to execute all of those transactions, financial transactions for the grantee. So circling back about the GATA reports, these are very important as these are standardized reports. There are 2 ongoing reports that are required by GATA. Again, GATA is the law in the state of Illinois that regulates how granting is done and the process and procedures that we must follow. These include the periodic performance report that I just mentioned a minute ago, and also the periodic financial report, or the PFR. The periodic performance report, or PPR, is a standard uniform statewide performance progress report format used by all state agencies to collect performance information from recipients of state grant awards. Keep in mind that the PPR is due on a quarterly basis within 30 days of the end of each quarter, as outlined in your grant agreement. There's a whole section in the grant agreement that addresses your reporting requirements. Grantee performance data is tracked in IWRS, as I mentioned earlier. As a result, additional supporting documentation is not required for your PPR submission. You just have to mention that the data was submitted through IWRS. The periodic financial report is a standard uniform statewide financial reporting format used by all state agencies to collect financial information from recipients of state grant awards, unless statutorily exempt as documented in the catalog of state financial assistance, the Uniform Grant Agreement, and the Uniform Grant Agreement. All grant awards are subject to periodic financial reporting. I can tell you that all Illinois Works grants are subject to periodic financial reporting. If you are interested, so you submit your PFR on a monthly basis for reimbursement. The PFR and expenses are due no later than 30 days after the end of the month. More information about these reports and other grantee resources can also be found on the GATA resource website. You can access the GATA resource site using the link being provided for you in the chat now. At the same time, we have delivered a webinar this summer related to the NOFO technical assistance we've been delivering. It's called GATA Training for New State Applicants. You can find that on the 2025 NOFO landing page. If you go to the bottom of the page, we just provided the link for you in the chat. If you go to the bottom of the page, you'll see all the NOFO sessions that we have delivered in 2025. And right next to the GATA one, you'll find a link to the recording if you want to download it and watch it. That is available for your use. So now let's discuss some key best practices for your application as we move forward. One, ensure outcome metrics are realistic for your organization. And if unsure, move toward lower metrics, knowing that if you exceed those, you can earn additional funds and grow in future years with a potential renewal. Try to make sure that whatever you submit is realistic for execution, given the performance-based model that we use. Don't go with metrics that you cannot meet, because ultimately that impacts negatively your ability to not only comply with Illinois Works, but also to unlock funding based on your performance. Second, make sure that you have and that you plan for having a data entry coordinator. This is very important position in your structure, given the nature of our system, real-time reporting with IWRS, and the fact that we're performance-based, and that data needs to be accurate and correct and submitted on a daily basis. Plan now for a financial team or individual who will manage all financial reporting and data requirements. This is another one that is important. Not only is it important for you to perform, but also ensuring that all your financial documentation is correctly submitted and in a timely manner through the PFR, and also when our financial grant manager is requesting backup documentations or for issues to be addressed. Another one as important, and probably even more important, is plan now for post-instruction follow-up. Transition into a registered apprenticeship program is the goal of our program, and quarterly follow-up support is required for 1 year after instruction ends. This is a vital position. You will be required to have a transition specialist. If you are getting a full grant from us, $300,000 or above, you'll be required to have a full-time transition specialist that works with your participants to transition into DOL registered apprenticeship programs and other construction employment. If you have a program that is less than $300,000, you will be required to have a part-time individual dedicated to delivering those services. And once again, as important, have at least one individual entering data and a different individual doing the checking of the data on a weekly basis. We call that a data quality management system. There's a difference between entering data in the system and ensuring that that data is full and accurate. A lot of times data is entered, documents are uploaded, and they're not correct, and as a result, we cannot verify those, and that impacts the amount of money that we're able to release on a monthly basis for a grantee. So we encourage you to establish a data quality management system from the very beginning to verify the quality and completeness of that data. Okay, any questions before we move on to our practice round here, which will be the last practice round before we do our webinar evaluation today? So, if you don't mind, please stay logged on to Mentimeter. We're going to start with our first question for our practice round. So the first question: the Office of Illinois Works, in partnership with Southern Illinois University Center for Workforce Development, developed the Illinois Works reporting system, also known as IWRS. Is that true or false? We have 4 individuals that have engaged and have said that that is true. That is correct. That is the correct answer. Moving on to the next question. IWRS allows grantees to track pre-apprenticeship program inquiries, participants in grantee partnerships. Is that true or false? So we still have that one girl leading the pack here. So once again, IWRS allows for grantees to track pre-apprenticeship program inquiries, participants in grantee partnerships. Is that true or false? You have 7 minutes to respond to that question, true or false. We have 2 that have said false, 2 that have said true. The correct answer is true. IWRS is the system that we use to track all of those activities. In fact, it's a system that we use to track all services and activities of our grantees. Moving on to question, let's see, who is leading the pack now? Let's go on to see who's leading in our board. We still have that one girl leading our board here. So question number 3, grantee performance data is tracked in IWRS. As a result, additional supporting documentation is not required when submitting a PPR. Is that true or false? Moving on to the next question, Carlita. Moving on to the next one. Given the nature of performance-based model, data entry is easier and less time intensive than most. That is true. It's a false. That's false. For some reason, the system skipped question number 3, but for this particular question, that is true. It's a false response. Your response for individual responding false is the correct answer. Let's see who's leading in our board here. Someone will soon overtake that one girl. So let's continue on to the next question. The Office of Grant Management is the liaison between Illinois Works and the Office of the Comptroller and approves grant expenses. Is that true or false? So 4 people said true, that the Office of Grant Management is the liaison between Illinois Works and the Office of the Comptroller. It's actually false. It is the Illinois Works Financial Grant Manager that is the liaison between the Office of Illinois Works and the Office of the Comptroller. So that the correct response there was false. Last question here. Today is carryover credits are earned when a grantee exceeds their enrollment goals. Is that true or false? It is false. Carryover credits are outcome metrics and reimbursement credits earned by grantees in their second and third grant year based on the completion or transition of participants initially enrolled in a previous grant year. So the 4 individuals that said false, they are correct. That is the correct response. So let's see how we ended up here in our board, in our competition board. It seems like Ronell wins 10,201 points. Congratulations. And thanks for participating. We appreciate your engagement today with our webinar. Any questions before we proceed to the webinar evaluation, Olivia?
There are currently no questions in the chat.
Okay, great. If you do feel like you want to unmute your line, you can certainly do so to ask any questions or make any comments. Otherwise, we will move on to Carlita. I'll hand it over to Carlita, who will conduct the evaluation of our webinar today. I appreciate you joining us today. As I mentioned earlier, this is our last session of our 2025 NOFO Technical Assistance series. It's been good sharing with you and getting to know all the participants. So please stay with us until we finish the evaluation. And after that, we hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much. Carlita, please take it over and let's move on.
Thank you so much, Norman. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started with our first question. Please share your views on this training by rating the following statements from 1 being the lowest to 10 being the highest. The first one is to what extent did it meet your expectations? How likely are you to attend a similar event in the future? And how likely are you to recommend this training to others? All right, I see about 3 people responded. Thank you for your responses. Can we get more responses to this question? There are about 14 people in the room. Can we get a few more responses to this question? Thank you. Thank you. I see a few more added in there. We'll give you about another 30 seconds and we'll go on to our next question. All right. Thank you so much. Next question. The course was relevant to what I wanted to learn about this subject matter. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. Please select your answer. Thank you for that. I have 1 person, 3 people. Oh, this is great. Continue on. Continue on. Please provide us with your feedback. This helps us to improve our programming. Anyone else? All right, we're going to move on to our next question. I plan to apply what I learned. Again, strongly disagree to strongly agree. We've learned a lot today in this webinar, and the question is, do you plan to apply what you have learned? I'll give you about 30 more seconds to put your answer in. Anyone else would like to put their answer in, you feel free to do so now. Okay, let's move on. What improvements might you recommend? What improvements might you recommend? I'll give you a few minutes to type out your answers because this is going to be a little bit lengthy to share your thoughts on that. What improvements might you recommend? One example would be to share more examples of what worked for others. That's a very good suggestion. Information was pertinent and presented, as presented, very good. Any other responses? Thank you. Past grantee feedback. That's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So we have 3 good recommendations. Any others? All right. What did you find effective? So if we make any changes, what would you recommend we keep? And I'll give you a few minutes to put your thoughts together and type out your response. What did you find effective? And if we make any changes, what would you recommend we keep? On response says the presentation of performance-based matrix. So we would keep that presentation. Very good. Thank you. Any others? More examples for strange cases for performance-based? Oh, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else? These are great responses. We'd like to hear more from you. Mentimeter quiz, performance presentation. Yeah, the quiz was rather fun. Thank you for that. Other thoughts out there? What do you recommend we keep? Okay. Is there anything else about this course you think we should know? Anything else about the course you think we should know? This was very helpful. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Timeline. Thank you. I see we have 14 people. We have about 12 more people can give a response. This will help us tremendously as we build the program for our next year's NOFO. Quizzes reinforced information presented. Thank you very much for that. Anyone else? Okay. Contact information, meaning the chat, bringing information in that you can reach out to us. Very good. And of course, someone mentioned, no, there's nothing else that we should know. So that's good too. Thank you all for participating, and we enjoyed having you with us here today. And we hope that you've learned a lot from this webinar. And so I say thank you for participating. Have a great day and have a better weekend. Goodbye, everybody.